RIP MC Mental. So a lot of people have been asking me what I think of the new patch. The new patch is out, France has been nerfed, Britain has been buffed, all is right in the world. And I noticed that no one else has made a video looking at the aspects of the patch, the SOULT, Milestone and Hotfix 1 from a multiplayer perspective. A lot of people have focused on the two new operations. There's a really good dev blog up here about it's really interesting talking about how they make the new skins and stuff. And no one's talked about the multiplayer, and I'm a multiplayer guy, right? So I might as well talk about the multiplayer. So yeah, single player, that's cool. And then this first one is a multiplayer one. So improved models for T72 and TO55. Great, they look really good. The base T72 has lost its smoke. The other ones haven't, but the base T72 has. So this bad boy doesn't have smoke anymore. And he looks cool now. He used to look like grey and stuff. Now he looks green. I'm not playing on max graphics either, I think. Can't remember. So this actually comes to a really interesting choice now on 7th, because before you'd always take the normal T72 over the T55 AM2, because it's just better. Look at the gun, look at the armour, look at the speed. But now the T55 AM2 has smoke and the T72 doesn't. So can be advantageous to take the T55 AM2. We'll see what happens. I've seen a far fewer standard T72s knocking around now that they haven't got the smoke. So that's cool. Supply vehicles are now resaleable. This is actually really interesting. You get 100% of the cost back that you spent on them. So supply is now theoretically free. Obviously it's not free because of the opportunity cost of spending the money. You have to think like an economist. If I'm spending 20 on supply, I could be spending on 20 elsewhere. But if the supply survives, you can now sell it. It doesn't auto sell, you have to press L to sell or press the sell button. But yeah, that's really interesting. So even the, obviously you can't sell the fob now, I think. I haven't tried. But yeah, that's really interesting. Fix the crash recounter battery. Smart orders, no one uses smart orders in multiplayer, I think. Fix shots from planes that have an attack order on a target they can no longer see. That's interesting. So sometimes you would not be able to see somebody but still be able to shoot them with a plane. I might be wrong on that, actually. Improved AI, fix shadows, improved AI, fix lights, cool. So all AA missiles are now better, for better or for worse. So yeah, I don't really agree with that. I'm not quite sure why this was done, but it has been done. Anti-air is a bit better, but there are some more nerfs down below to anti-air. So it used to be that all MMG teams and HMG teams, you know, those tripod guys, they used to come in IFVs. Then Britain lost access to warriors with MMGs, and now several months later everybody else has now lost access to MMGs and IFVs, with the exception of 4th Mochlson, which can still, you can still get the BMP-1 with the PKM 762. I'm not sure if that's intentional, but yeah, you can now get this combo for 40 points, which is really something, by the way. It's really something. But the rest of the division's crap, so don't expect to be seeing too much of that. And yeah, to compensate, all MMG teams got cheaper, and HMG teams by 5 points. So Seed's been terrible for ages, and so they've increased Seed missiles range and they've increased its acceleration. But when you add it to this and everything else, the Seed missiles are still slower than the regular missiles, so Seed's still crap. They also can't really use their additional range. There's just something up with it. They just can't use their range properly right now. And remove the Resolute trait for any DDR Special Forces, because the Special Forces already gives you Resolute. That's interesting. So here we go, nerfs to France. AMX-30B has gone from 85 to 95. That is the heat one. So let's go to that. Yeah, so, oops, AMX-30B. Right, so this is the cheap one. And this was 85 before, which was a bit ridiculous, if I'm being entirely honest. Now it is 95, so I think that's fair. It's got a heat gun, it's got an auto cannon. It does it all, but it won't survive a TOW 2 shot. And then the next one was the AMX30B2 has gone up by 5 points. So you might think, well, that's pointless. 5 points, it doesn't matter. You get 260 income per tick. So by raising it to 135, you can't just buy 2 AMX30B2s once a minute, every minute for the next 10 minutes. Or 12 minutes, because you get 24 of them. So this is actually a big change. I know it doesn't seem like much. The AMX10s, these things are really annoying. For anybody who's been living under a rock, the AMX10s are these wheeled tanks coming soon to a battlefield near you. And they're really annoying because they get mediocre stealth, used to be worse, used to be good stealth. Advanced deployment, they're really fast and they've got a good gun and 3 armor, so they can survive one hit. They get the smoke as well. And you don't see them before they see you because they have very good optics, so they're very, very frustrating to deal with. Then this is their bigger brother, which has 4 front armor, and the gun's better because it uses depleted uranium isthmus rounds, which makes it better. 18 pen on 105mm gun's interesting, but it is what it is. And the prices of those two have gone up. AMX10 VOA price has gone from 35 to 30. I don't actually know what this is. Oh, it's this one. So yeah, this is a very good optics vehicle, which you never see anybody using, because why bring this when you can bring infantry? So, but yeah, 30 points. It's cheaper now. Maybe we'll see it. I doubt it. And the VAB T20/13s have gone from 30 to 35. So all IFVs went up in price, except the modders, a while ago. And these guys never did. La Corona. That sounds about right. So you might say, well, you know... So yeah, this is now a fair comparison, because you'll say, well, the Warrior has better armor, but the VAB is way faster. So that's why. Also, it's amphibious. So on the more open maps, these guys are a real pain in the neck to deal with because they're so fast. They get the troops inside there fast, they just drive away from anything. It's like a little mini AMX-10 RC, basically. And so 30 points was too little, 35 is more reasonable. It's not a big change, but it'll stack up over the course of the game. Decreased VBL Milan's price from 80 to 55, so this was the one for 11E, if I remember correctly. Oh, 5E gets it as well, fair enough. So this is just a Recon Milan vehicle, and it used to be 80 points, which was pretty crazy. Now it's 55, good stealth, very good optics, and then, yeah, 1 armor, so it can't be killed by small arms. So if you compare it to like a UAZ Faggot, let's find that. Yeah, so I think that's reasonable. Oh, actually, there's like the Rover Milan or something. So... yeah, you're paying 15 points for the optics and the advanced deployment and the 1 armor and the MMG and the amphibious capability. So yeah, I think 55 is a reasonable price. We'll see how it goes. Because it was very hard to bring these at 80. I mean, it's pretty crazy. Right, Chieftains are getting cheaper. So this is fantastic. The Chieftain Mark 9 and the Chieftain Mark 11. So the price difference between them is 30 points now, whereas it was 20 before, and the commands are getting cheaper to compensate. The Chieftain Mark 10 is functionally identical to the Chieftain Mark 11 in-game. I don't know how it is in real life, let me know. I actually have no idea. They're the same, you see. It's just the Chieftain Mark 10 only comes on the Berlin Bros division, and it gets this cool skin and stuff. I don't think I'm playing at max graphics, so you'll have to forgive me. But yeah, this is great news, because the issue with these tanks is look how slow they are. Look how slow that is. How slow it all is. So these guys just eat missiles for breakfast, eat planes for breakfast. But now that they're cheaper, it's worth bringing them. If you compare it to like a T-72, so the T-72 has a better gun, better rate of fire but worse accuracy. The Chieftain's got more pen though. Well, you say that, but because that T-72M has 175 meters more range, it will actually have the same penetration as the Chieftain Mark 9 for every range. Can't spend too much time on this, but basically you're on a kinetic accelerator, tungsten, whatever, depleted uranium isthmus projectile. Every 175 meters closer you get, you do 1 more pen. So because he starts from 175 meters more away, he'll do more damage. So Chieftain Mark 9 is still kind of crap, right? If you look at the speed as well, but at least it's got more armor, so it's actually worth bringing these now. First UK was pretty crap before, and the Chieftain Mark 11's got cheaper as well. So comparing these two, so if we compare these two, it's difficult to justify bringing the Mark 11 now, in my own approximation, because the only difference is the range on the gun. And you're paying 30 points for that. So that means that the Mark 11 will have one more pen at every range than the Mark 9, because it has 175 meters more range, as we spoke about. It also means that the accuracy of the Mark 11 will be higher, because the accuracy is taken from the max range, and then it increases the closer you get. So the Mark 11 accuracy will be higher. But 30 more points, it's kind of difficult to justify for that max range gun. So I bring the Mark 9 now. We'll see if that changes. You know, that's the point of this. I might just be wrong. So Challenger 2 got cheaper as well, basically for the same reason. The Challenger 2 is also really slow, and it's got this very sad veterancy curve. It's got the veterancy curve of a heavy tank, but it's like the worst heavy tank. So something like the Leopard 2's got a much better veterancy curve. And you see how slow it is, right? Let's compare it to the AMX-30B2. This is the fastest tank. And it's very difficult to keep the Challenger 2s alive in the face of clusters and stuff, just because of how slow they are. Once they get into a place, you know, they basically have to stay there, or they're only getting out very, very slowly. So that's why the price of these keeps coming down, because on paper, the stats are good. But, yeah, the ROF's bad. You know, you compare it to a Leopard 2. So 5 points more for worse accuracy on the move, but, you know, look at the rate of fire. And, you know, want more armor. But look at the speed and the stabilizer. So this is now a more fair comparison whereas before the Challenger 2 was just bad for its price, basically. Scorpion availability went up, so that's cool. The Scorpion availability went down because I rushed Derek with some Scorpions and he nerfed them. But then the PT-76 could do exactly the same thing. And yeah, so the Scorpion availability has sort of gone back up to compensate for that mistake. Gun group price went from 20 to 25, so these are this little 4-man squad. I think 25 is a bit unreasonable, but the reason it's gone up is because of the access to the warrior. So they get access to the warrior now, whereas this was removed when this went down because of the same thing. But that's been fixed now. Spartan MCT is a transport for the Milan 2s on First UK. And this is, yeah, it's got bad optics, bad stealth, so 35 points for Milan 2s. It's actually still quite expensive if you compare it to like a VAB Milan, or well, actually that's a Milan one. Okay, yeah, so fair enough. I guess it's actually a reasonable price. But yeah, bad optics, bad stealth, so it's difficult to keep them alive, but they do have smoke. 2 armor means they'll survive some things from a front hit. So yeah, that's why the price came down. The L118 price went down, and the reason for this is that the French artillery was already like way cheaper despite being the same. Need to find it now. 1 second, please. I must have already gone past. Here we go. Yeah, so the French one was always 60, or at least it was 60 for a lot longer, and the L118 has more range, but everything else is the same. And howitzer dispersion does not yet scale with distance, so the actual range doesn't matter, except for max range shots. So it's great to see this happen, to see the price of this come down, because yeah, it was a bit silly before at 100. And the 155mm went down basically for the same reason. The 81mm prices keep going up. They used to be 15 and now they're more. And I don't really think that's very fair because of how crap they are. The 81mm mortars are very rubbish, especially compared to the 120s. But yeah, the price keeps going up, so It's sad. I mean, it's good for smoke, and that's the argument, that it's good for smoke, but yeah, HE 0.89 and the splash radius is terrible, whereas something like a 120 is a lot better. But it is what it is. I don't really agree with that change, but it is what it is. Ferret MK2 price went down by 10 points. Nobody ever brings this, because why would you when you can bring the Fox? So it's only got a medium MG with 300 rounds. It's basically an infantry transport, and so it's just a waste of a card. It's basically an infantry transport, so yeah. I mean, you could drop it to 10. I still wouldn't see people bringing this. Arm rifles went down, so the argument here was... so these guys used to be 45, whereas Fireteam Law 30. They used to be 25, didn't they? I guess they went up by 5. Pretty sure Fireteam Law used to be 25. But anyway, this is now more fair, basically. You're paying 5 points for one more man, essentially. The LSW's a little bit better. So arm rifles are actually worth bringing now. Even though the AT option's terrible, they now cost what they should cost. Mech rifle availability went up, so that's on the US. M60 price went down by 5 points, so this is... One of the ways to play 8th is that at the start of the game you get a few of these and a few Fireteam Laws, and you stick them all together and you do an early game attack. And basically these are a bit difficult to justify bringing, so the price comes down a little bit to try and justify them, because those early game pushes are not particularly effective, and that's really how the division is supposed to be played. So what's it called, like an M48 something? There we go. Yeah. Obviously the M48 is worse. But yeah, 90 points difficult to justify when you can just not buy 3 and buy an M1A1 instead. But yeah, it's maybe we'll see more of these. Decrease M1 Abrams normal price to 175. So I don't know if I really agree with this. So yeah, it's somewhere between these two, right? Yeah, maybe I do agree with it. Maybe it should be 175 then, because the gun isn't as good. The speed's way better though. You got to think about speed. People don't really consider that. The M1 Abrams is very fast, and the HMG's better. So okay, maybe I do agree with this change. CV goes down to compensate. LRS price goes up by 10. These new sniper teams, they've nerfed them a little bit, I think. No, they haven't. Never mind. I made that up. But yeah, they're just crazy. The thing is that the Spetsnaz GRU didn't come down. So the Spetsnaz GRU is better because they also get an AT. Snipers are the same. Yeah, so the Spetsnaz GRU is still better. And cheaper, and so I'm not sure why. You know, I'd like to see Spetsnaz GRU go up as well. What I'd really like to see is this entire unit get redesigned, this entire class of unit, like Fern Spear and Dragon Paras and all these guys. It's just ridiculous that these guys have GSR and Special Forces and Airborne Forward Deployment and a Sniper Rifle and SMGs and an AT option in some cases. I just think it's really stupid. The unit does everything. Like, it's got exceptional optics, exceptional stealth. You might say very good, but it's because of this tag here. When they're stood still, they get exceptional optics. Check him out, he's like a green army man. So I'd like to see the entire class of unit get redesigned, but I'm not in charge, so we'll see what happens. The M2105 is like the L118, so that's why the price of that went down. Berlin light rifles went down by 5 points, so the unit in isolation seems very, very strong, but you have to think about Berlin Command in general, and this unit basically makes Berlin Command usable. That and the Nighthawk and a couple other things, but this is the bread and butter of Berlin Command, and so that's why they're getting cheaper, because Berlin Command's crap. So balance on a divisional basis. Jaeger, Aufklärer, price from 70 to 60, really? Okay, yeah, so this is an 11-man recon squad that a lot of people get, and yeah, I mean that's a really good deal now, actually. It's a really good deal. Normal Jaeger price went down, so Jaeger used to be really amazingly strong, and then they just keep getting power creeped out of existence by everybody else, like the AT is not great and stuff like that, so eventually the price starts to come down. Jägerführer price went down, that's just a command unit. So the Kanch PZ got the reservist trait and its price went down by 5. So this thing's really interesting. You see this a lot on the 8th. And that's where that M60, you don't see so much of the M60 because people would just bring 3 of these instead. So yeah, it's just sort of cheap fire support for 8th. Like it gets 3 armor and it gets smoke, so it can survive 1 hit. Smoke can survive. Adding the reservist trait makes it kind of... I mean, it takes more suppression, but after 1 hit, you want to be smoking them back in anyway. But it does mean near misses will make it miss more. I don't run this, but some people swear by it on 8th. Certainly on TKS you see it. Although nobody plays TKS in comp. So, yeah, we'll see what change that makes. Getting reservist added is a big nerf, though. So, I don't know if we'll see more or less of that. Oh, yeah, the M48s that we were talking about. So, the M48 price went down by 5 as well. Same sort of reason. It's got the reservist trait. In this case, it's got 5 armor, so before it got the reservist trait, it could take a couple hits, but now, you know, the first hit kind of suppresses it, and then it becomes kind of useless, and so, yeah, the price is starting to come down because of this reservist trait, which was added previously. CV price comes down to compensate. Leopard 1A1, A1, CV goes down in price. Okay. Yeah, so it's pretty cheap now. I mean, yeah, it's probably worth bringing the 1A1 over the 1A5. I mean, you don't really want it to be in combat at all. You save yourself 35 points on a worse gun. Yeah, okay. I'm not sure what to think of that. I think it's good that the price has come down, because I don't bring it anyway. The 155mm towed howitzer has gone down, same as the 155. It's the same thing. These are the same gun. It's just the British designation and the West German designation. Bucks Razit price from 50 to 40. So this was, to my knowledge, yeah. So this is the exceptional optics one. And yeah, exceptional optics for 40 points is cool, but 1 armor, you know, it might die, get smoke, I guess. So this is good for armored pushes. You keep it behind your tank to scout for your tank, basically. Can be good, can be worth bringing now. Especially considering how cheap it is. However, the BRDM1, BDRM1, BRM1 is still 70. For exceptional optics, 3 armor, I guess, but it shouldn't be 70. I think there should be more like 50. But hey, what can you do? Couple more buffs for West Germany. So the Tornado IDS MW1, the Waffle, went from 295 to 280. The Waffle's really cool against infantry. It doesn't do anything against armored targets, but it's cool against infantry. Problem is, it kind of turns like a brick because it's got this thing underneath it. So I can understand why the price has come down. Look at that rate of fire. Because it's really hard to keep it alive, because you have to... So with a normal bomber, you drop the bombs and fly, whereas this has to fly over the target to dispense little bomblets from its waffle. Tornado IDS cluster goes down. Whoops. Oh, for Pete's sake. I apologise. I apologise. I apologise. I apologise. Tornado IDS cluster goes down 25 points, but then you got to ask yourself, like, tornado... So yeah, I think that's reasonable. But then why is the British one 305 points for the same... It's like the same thing. I mean, the British loadout's better, but why is it so much more expensive? Crazy, crazy world. So I agree with this, I just don't agree with this. I think this should also come down to compensate. Tornado IDS AT goes down, so this is the same thing, but the AT variant. And these AGM Mavericks only have 40% accuracy. I'm receiving... I'm sorry. I apologise. I apologise. I apologise. I apologise. Just solve this. Right. I'll reply later, integer, if you're watching this. So yeah, the price of that's come down, that's cool. So the Mavericks, so if you compare this to like the F16, F-16, yeah, so the F-16 one is 10% more accuracy, which is actually a big deal. The 40% ones just never seem to hit for me. But the Tornado IDS gets better air optics and better speed and a better gun. So I think this is a reasonable trade-off now, whereas before the Tornado IDS was just too expensive. What else? F104 ATG. F104. This is the Dart, right? The lawnmower. Yeah, 35% accuracy. I can see why the price went down. I think that's reasonable. It's very fast, but and the missile's great if it hits something. I guess it must be big. Yeah, that's a very, very large missile. But yeah, so the Tornado one is fire and forget. The Maverick is fire and forget. So that means you can, your plane can explode or whatever, and the missile keep going. Whereas this, the F104G needs to, yeah, you need to, like, if you right click and stuff before the missile hits, I think it loses its targeting, so you need to wait for the missile to miss or hit before you do anything with the plane. You might be able to evac, but you definitely can't right click around on the map. So this is something that's been happening. The I should have closed all this first, really. The Chaparral HP's gone down. The Tractor AP HP's gone down. The Cub one should have gone down. Hello? Yeah, probably. All AA HP has gone down. So the idea is that it makes it easier to counter battery them. Because obviously this AA is just broken at the moment. Especially with Seed still being messed up. But with 6 HP, it should be more easy to counter battery them once they fire. So you're forced to move your AA once you shoot a bit more. Because before you could just sort of leave it there. Chaparral loses 175 meters range. Wow, I mean, I still think it's just absolutely absurd for a fire and forget non-radar infrared missile to be shooting 3.7 kilometers. Somebody told me that this is the unupgraded version as well, so the actual fire control system on this is terrible. And so it shouldn't be doing that. When you think that that's basically the same, like, look. It's ridiculous. Like, that's a radar one on the left, so Seed can kill that when Seed works. Roland 2. Oh, so Roland 2 still shoots 4 kilometers with a... whatever. I don't really like the state of AA in the game. But it is what it is. Tractor AP HP went down. The Hawk lost some anti-plane range and some rate of fire. I still think it's too high. But basically the idea is that these... if you're trying to go... So the range has been raised for this realism aspect. Thus making these things absolute map deleters. You put them in the middle of the map in chemical. Same with the Cub. Whoa. Same with the Cub. And it just deletes the whole map. So, for your realism issue, your realism concern, I raise you how, does it fire all 3 missiles at one plane within 5 seconds? Because that's what it does in-game. And so, that's the counter to the realism aspect. What's the buck one now? That's still 6k. So, the rate of fire is coming down to so that they don't just spam them all out, which I think is good, but they still do that because it's not come down enough. Roland anti-plane range went down by 175 meters. I wish it would honestly just go back to what it was. And the suppression of Roland missiles went up loads, so if you hit a Roland missile, I've done it again. I apologize. If you hit a Roland missile, it's going to kill everybody. It's going to suppress you, basically. The UH-60A, is that the Black Hawk? Yeah, it is. The Black Hawk now is 10% ECM, so that's reasonable considering how much it costs. So that's cool for your heli drops. The Pamela went up in price. That's the Manpads Pamela. So it's just a minstrel on a truck. That's gone up by 10 points. Which, yeah, considering it's carrying 12, I think that's reasonable. And it's got forward deployment and everything, so I think that's reasonable. Gazelle Celtic went up to 80, so yeah, this is the minstrel on a helicopter, so yeah, I can understand why it's gone up to 80. Kind of hard to keep this alive. It's just because of the 4 HP. But it is what it is. So if you compare this to the what's it called? The UH60 something. What's the... There's one on 5th. There's one on 8th. And I can't remember... Here we are. OH58C. So yeah, that's why the price went up. The Celtic's still better, but the balance on a divisional level, right? And then the Stinger accuracy went up, and yeah, by 10%. I'm really not sure why. I think these were already OP. Like, they were 60 and it got lowered to 50 as part of an effort to nerf them, and now it's 60 again. Stingers are stronger, and their range went up. Why? I don't understand why all these man pads are just getting better and better and better. They were good before. And then the rapier, it says the rapier, tracked rapier, anti-helo range went down by 175. But what I think this was a bug, right? Because they seem to accidentally have put in the aircraft one for this, right? For both of them. So now the tracked rapier is kind of shit. There's no way to say it. British AA is just really, really bad now because of that change. I don't know. I expect it to be fixed, but I'm not in charge. So this is really not fantastic now. If you compare these, I mean, the price going down is great, but yeah, it's manual guidance, so it loses its tracking really quickly, and yeah, it's not fab at all. Basically can't shoot things down. It's basically a Stinger. Why wouldn't you get a Stinger at this point? It's got better accuracy. It's fire and forget. Range is almost the same. Crazy. But yeah, I think it was a mistake. The Rapier FSA got a little bit better. So that's the radar rapier. But even so, you know, you compare this to a... What's that Chaparral one? I'd be bringing the Chaparral 10 out of 10 times with its fire and forget missiles, because it shoots all 4 at once. And the Rapier's towed as well. The Rapier FSA is towed. So I think the British AA is kind of bad. But yeah, the price went down by 15. I've done it again. Price went down by 15. And here you go. So the Minstrel got more expensive and its accuracy went up. So the Minstrels are now even better. You know, why all the manpads are so good now, I don't know. Helicopters are basically just shit, in my opinion. A lot of people still say they're too strong. I don't know where they're getting that from. And yeah, the Stinger accuracy went up to 60, and the Minstrel accuracy went up to 65, so that's cool. Price of the Stinger stayed the same, but price of the Minstrel went up by 5. Javelin LML got cheaper. Oh, and another thing that isn't in the patch notes. I've got some... These things aren't in the patch notes, so I forgot about this. Javelin LML speed increase to 20 kmh. So Javelin LML is better now. So you might as well just bring that instead of the tracked rapier. So this thing used to have a towed speed of 9 kilometers an hour because it was classed as just like a towed anything, right? Hawk. So they were like, yeah, it's like an iHawk, but obviously this is a little bit bigger, and so this has a speed of 9, whereas the LML, you know, it can be carried by 2 men. One carries the base plate, one carries the rest of the thing. And so that's why the speeds come back up to be more analogous to something like an MMG team. 7.62. 7.62. Okay, 7.62. Alright, PKM. Oh, it's because I'm on the AA tab. So, yeah. You see that's 20 as well, because it's like a thing on a tripod, and this is a thing on a tripod, so that's why that's gone up to 20, and the accuracy's gone up to 65. Still manual guidance as opposed to fire and forget. But these are pretty good now. I now bring them. I didn't used to before. Switch the PSG-1 as the West German sniper rifle. That's just a cosmetic thing. Detachment A changed to CB. Okay, cool. And TKS got 1 card of Big Girl Squad. Big Girl Squad is... Hey, what? B.G. Right. This is big girl squad, 40 women. I was going to say 40 men then. Advanced recon deployment, 9 of these. So they're very good with 9 MP5s. And so it's a really good unit. Big girl squad, blonde girl squad, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, so it's a very good unit. So to see TKS get those is cool. Berlin added the VAB Razit. We've already spoken about that, but now Berlin gets it as well. So now Berlin can get some exceptional optics in the form of the VAB Razit. Sorry, the other one I spoke about was actually different, wasn't it? That was actually the Fux Razit, but they're the same. They're exactly the same. It's just the model. Third AD, the helicopter CV veterancy went up. It doesn't really matter. All M151 off-road speeds is now 72. Some were lower, some were higher. The Lynx got a little bit faster. So this is because the Lynx is the fastest helicopter in the world. It holds the speed record. It's the fastest helicopter. It can do loop-de-loops. It can go backwards, all this. It's basically the best helicopter in the universe. And the speed's gone up to 297, which is now on par with the Mi-24D. So yeah, that's cool. It should be fast. It holds the land speed record. AMX-13 armor. BCI. Oh, this thing. Right, yeah, so nobody ever used to bring this because it had 1 armor, and now it's 3. So maybe we'll see some people bringing it. So yeah, for 20 points, 3 armor, that's really not bad, actually. Doesn't it have smoke, to my knowledge? To find out if it has smoke, you have to look for smoke launchers. There's nothing on here yet. That's just the way it is. So that's cool. I can't remember which unit gets this. Let's have a look. It's a transport for like one of the units. Yeah, so it's these guys. The Sappers Flam and the regular Sappers and the Command Sappers. They get that transport, but nobody else does. And it used to be, because it was 1 armor, there was basically no reason to bring it. It's like, wow, it's got an autocannon, that's cool, but it's got 1 armor. But now it's got 3 armor, so it might be a bit more useful. Still, it's a poor man's warrior, really, because obviously it's cheaper, but it's not got the smoke. You might find it useful. I'm still not going to run it, maybe. Actually, I might run this one. I don't know. We'll see. And then the Fox went from 70 to 60. It went from 3 to 6 per card, so this is Britain again. I think that this is a bit much, actually. I would have set it to 4 per card and kept the price at 70. But yeah, great, fantastic. Now that means in second UK you can run 3 cards of Foxes for 18 Foxes. And on first UK you can run 2 cards of Foxes for 12 Foxes. I would have set it to 4, 2, 1, same as the Lux, but yeah, it's good. Fab, whatever. I reckon they'll fix that. I reckon they'll change that, because that's too much. Right, we're halfway through. Packed forces, the ZIS 3 went from 75 to 60. I can understand why nobody else has done this now. It takes ages. So this thing's crap, so it doesn't matter if you make it cheaper. Why would I bring this when I can just bring a mortar? So it's a howitzer and a tank gun and it's reservist, but if I just 120mm, why wouldn't I bring this 120mm mortar? Is it so that I can use the 8 penetration on the direct fire capability? I mean, the mortar fire rate is also higher. So there's really no reason to bring this, just sort of a meme troll unit. I'd make it 50, I'd make it 40. But yeah, only Unter Mensch gets this. Oh, they're called something else now. They're called Berliner Groperung. That's cool. M46, so towed howitzers going up a bit on packed because right, 155 goes to 120, but these go up. I guess they're higher caliber. No, they're not. That doesn't really make sense. Why are these going up when these ones are going down? Divisional balance, I guess. Divisional balance. And then, yeah, one of the mortars went up in price because it was too cheap. Oh yeah, this is an interesting one. The BMP1, the base BMP1 now costs 20 points. So if you want the one with the faggot, it costs 30, but the base one costs 20. So you can now do really interesting pushes with these because it's so cheap. It's basically what the M113A3 used to be. So if you remember, this used to be 3 front armor as well, but this is just better because it gets the smoke, and the tank gun, quote unquote tank gun, it's just an SPG-9 basically, is better than the 50 cal ever was. And yeah, so the BMP1 is very cool now. You see a lot of strategies with people. I stole this from a wooden box, but yeah, you run the PKM762 with the BMP SP1. You get these two for 40 points, 8 availability and max vet. It's crazy. It's absolutely hilarious. You can do the same with Mochutson for 65. And so that turns 4th into a bit more of an early game aggression deck, which is good because they need it. The thing is, 7th gets it as well, and 7th didn't really need the help, in my opinion. And the BMP 1P's price went from 35 to 30, so that is the grenade launcher one. No, it's not. It's just the packed one. So that went down because the... Hang on, what? Okay. BMP 1. So... Yeah, that's weird, right? Because obviously the faggot is better. Can't remember which way round it is. Never mind. If they're the same price, not a big deal. Can't remember which one's better. I'm pretty sure the Malyuka's better because it's got the longer range. But no, I changed my mind. I think the faggot's better. Whatever. I can't remember. I did this in an earlier video, but I've forgotten. And then the Aufklärer BMP1 prices went down to compensate. So those are the transport BMP ones. They went down. BRDM2 went from 55 to 40, so this is more of a reversion. So when the game first came out, these things were hilarious. Like, they were basically the strongest opener thing. This was the cheese. This was the cheese. You would spam these. So the price kept going up and up, but the KPVT can't pen anything. And so these days, it's, you know, it was a bit stupid to have it at 55. 40 is more reasonable now. But when the game came out, they were really something. MiG-27 LGB comes down in price, so this is fantastic news. So the this was just for some reason 410 points, whereas all the other ones, like the F-16 one, etc., were all way cheaper. So it's cool that it's come down in price. It's still more expensive. I guess the gun's better. And it's got 4 infrared missiles if you want that. Oh, and obviously the Cab 500 KR Calibras. Is that the Calibra? I don't actually know. It's obviously better. So yeah, I can understand why it costs more. But yeah, 410 was absolutely stupid. T-72 command tank goes down in price. T-80 BK command tank goes down in price. And T-80 BVK tank goes up in price. And all of the AA goes down to 6. And the Cub got a bit more of a nerf, but it's still stupid. So T-80 command tanks, yeah, so it used to be that the prices between these were all weird, but now they're 30 across the board, right? 30 more for a command tank. Yeah, 30 more for a command tank. Whereas before some were better, like the T-80 BVK one was just really good, and the other two were just kind of not so good. So that's fixed that problem. Strelas have gone up in price. But the Strela accuracy has gone up. I really don't understand why this keeps happening. So basically, these are just really good now. Why would you take an Igla? Why would you pay twice as much for an Igla when you can just get 2 Strelas, get a little bit of money left over, get the Resolute trait, which may or may not help you, and you lose 15% accuracy, but it doesn't matter because you've got 2 of them. I don't understand why all the AA keeps getting better. It is what it is. And then here we go, Zentrum. So first thing first, they're not called Untermensch anymore. They're called Berliner Groperungs. Cool. I'm not sure who names these, like, but basically, KDA used to have a few advantages over Zentrum. KDA used to have a Malka, whereas Zentrum didn't. This is now not the case. I believe KDA has the D44. It might not. Yeah, KDA used to have the D44 and Zentrum didn't. Now, this is not the case. ZSU, ZU. And KDA used to have the flak ZU-23 too, and Zentrum didn't, but now Zentrum gets that. And KDA used to have a recon helicopter, whereas Zentrum didn't. Zentrum now gets a recon helicopter. Now every division in the game has a recon helicopter. And Zentrum gets another tank, card of anti-tank, and Zentrum loses its SPW-70s for some things, which is interesting, and it loses the BRDM to Maryuka. So there's basically no reason to take KDA now. There weren't many reasons before, but now there's literally no reason to. Unter Berliner Gruppierungs are basically just a better version of KDA and a better version of 4th Marschützen. There's no reason to pick those two divisions when you can pick Zentrum. So that does it for that, and then we got a small hotfix, and this is actually a really good dev diary. You should read it. But we're talking about multiplayer here. So the M9181, this thing nobody used, but yeah, it used to have a road speed of 108 despite being a tracked vehicle, and no one noticed for months because no one uses it. Still, no one will use it. It's just been nerfed. And the AT4 caliber, that's a cosmetic issue. Berlin lose some veterancy on their paladins. AML loses amphib. Which one's the AML? Alright, this used to be amphibious. Interesting. Okay, I guess it wasn't in real life then for them to fix that. And the TO55 price went up by 5. I still think it's too cheap. And the SPW fixed the amphibious trait. So that about does it for the patch. When the next hotfix comes out, I'll talk about that as well. I hope you found this useful. Tell me if you found this useful. Tell me if you found this pointless. If you're still here, I guess you found it useful. Do you want to see more of these? Do you want to see more patch rundowns? Me talking about how I think this is going to change the game. How do I think this is going to change the game overall now that we've covered everything? There's been no changes to heavy tanks, so I think you're still going to drive your heavy tank through the forest, and that's all going to be the same. The seed hasn't really been fixed properly, and the changes to air don't really make air that much worse. So I think most things are going to be the same, except 5e is not going to be top anymore. I think 3rd is now top because 5e has been nerfed a little bit. And Britain's actually a viable civilization now, viable divisions on Britain. So I think that's great news. But generally, I think the overall meta is going to be the same, heavy tanks, medium tanks. So yeah, good luck with that, I guess. Have a nice day.